is be true to what you said on paper.
Well, welcome back to At the Round Table with Mamley. I'm your host, Larry Elson. In the studios with me is Dr. Bradley and Pastor Hobbs are back. We are live here, January 14th, 2023. Happy New Year to everyone. We want to thank our sponsor, Guaranteed Rate Mortgage. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code area code 781-342-0252. Guaranteed Mortgage is located at 75 State Street in downtown Boston, Mass. Guaranteed Rate Mortgage Company, guaranteed to exceed your expectations. Again, folks, the calling number here is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685 is the calling number here at the station. So, folks, we want to remind folks as well that Mamleo will be so I want to have you save the date for Mamleo's gala. The 55. Mamleo's turning 55. Can you believe that, Dr. Brown?
Really?
55.
Wow. 55.
And they're going to be having a gala. The 55. So save the date. April 29th, 2023. The 55th anniversary gala at Venezia's Waterfront Restaurant and Ballroom, 20 Erickson Street, Boston, Mass. Further details to follow. But like I said, save the date, April 29th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Mamleo is turning 55. And we're going to celebrate. We're going to party like it's 1999, as Prince was saying. So looking forward to that. Like I said, tickets will be available, like I said. But if you want to get yours in advance, because like I said,
I think that's the evening, and my wife and I can go out and enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, I think I'll be there.
Yeah,
God will, I will be there.
Yeah.
So, folks, like I said, a lot going on. Elections. And the thing about in the Commonwealth here, there's election either city or state every year, and there were a lot of campaign promises. Folks ran on, and they were going to fix some of these things. And I that's why I tell folks, it's not as easy from the outside. It's easy to be a critic of what's not working, right? Mm-hmm. And not everyone's got a solution. They run and say what's broken, and I'm the one. Remember Donald Trump? He said, "I and I alone can fix it," right?
Yeah, we see what he fixed, but anyway.
Now today, it's we're gonna assess and we're gonna get a report card on here in the city of Boston. Also it's state. Governor Baker has gone. We now have Governor Healy as a new governor here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So we're going to give her a little space because she's new to the job. But I think Governor Baker overall did a great job. Was it perfect? No, but I think the tea is a lot better than it was. Probably the first governor I've seen actually make some improvements that were significant.
Well, Larry, I see Governor Baker as a perfect example as to what you can do if your heart is in the right spot.
Good point.
All right. I don't necessarily like his party. I probably would not vote for him because of his party, but I like the individual. I can't, and there's reasons why I wouldn't vote for him. I just think I can't vote for a party that doesn't represent me. You know what I mean? But the person, the heart, I felt very comfortable with him.
Same here. And that's what I'm saying. But see, this is why I don't vote party. I vote individual, right? And because when I look at people who have had D's beside their name, right, and then I line them up against Governor Baker, for example, someone who's a Republican, right, and I know people call him a rhino because he's not so far to the right, like with some. He's conservative but I think I would be willing to say, Dr. Bradley, you're very conservative in your views, right? In your church, right? In spending and things of that, and your values, right? That's, to me, that doesn't belong to any party.
Right? But it's not the conservative piece that bothers me. It's the lack of people that look like me in the party that bothers me. It's the lack of, so it tells me that the party has lost touch and out of touch with the issues that I'm concerned about, that concerns me and people that look like me in our society. So I can't support a party that doesn't support people that look like me. That's where I'm going. Well, now, the individual, when it comes down to Baker, I would vote for him if he were in any other party, because of the fact that when he's in the position as governor, and we'll say someone like Liz the representative, who's the representative that came to us and we haven't seen her since? Liz
Miranda?
Liz Warren.
Oh, Liz Warren.
Yeah.
Liz Warren. Okay, the senator. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So if she goes to and become the vice president, now that senator's position is open. Who's governor? Who's Baker's going to send?
Well, he's not the governor anymore. So Healy, right.
I'm saying, if he were,
right.
So my point here is that although he thinks differently, but if he's going to send someone of the Republican Party to fill that seat, now the Republican Party, the zombie,
we don't
has
know.
more authority to do with.
Here's where I'm going to push back on you a little bit, because I don't think that he would. He knows the state that he's in, right? That would likely that person would not be able to see. And I give it perfect.
I don't know if I concur with that.
Well,
Larry.
okay, let me give you an example. Maybe this might change the thought process a little bit. Not change your mind, but your thought process, right? Rachel Rollins left the DA's office, right? Governor Baker's a Republican, right? Who did he put in as her replacement?
He put in a Democrat.
Kevin, right?
Yeah, but that's the state level. That's not the federal level, though.
No, I get it, but I'm saying so. I can only judge on. I think my assessment of what I've seen of him is that he analyzes. Okay, is this going to be a political stunt? It's not going to work well. And looks like, or am I going to put somebody in there that most likely can be like? I think because he's coming from. I'm not saying that he wouldn't, but I think because he's coming from a state that is Democratic, right?
I understand what you're saying.
That was a Democratic seat. That I think he's been fair in that, saying, "Hey, but this is what the people represented, not a Republican."
I responded the way that I responded because I think he would get a different level of pressure from the Republican Party if there was a state at the federal level, especially if you had a slim majority.
Right.
I think it would have been a different level of, in your ear, you got to do this because we want to push these agendas. I'm not comfortable when I sit and I watch a Republican leader who would say the zombie or McCarthy report to society, to American. I look at the backdrop. Forget about the front. Right. I want who's behind him.
Right.
Because when I look behind him, I begin to see a lot of people.
But they said they've improved that. Did you see they have 4?
Oh, yeah, okay.
They have 4 out of their 222. They have 4.
That caucus is bad, man. It looks nothing like America.
Yeah.
It looked more like America in the 1940s, not in the 2022.
Yeah.
And so I think black people and people of color need to take note of that.
Well, I said to your point with Governor Baker is that you have to ask yourself. You have a governor who's a Republican in a majority, a super majority state that is Democratic.
I got you.
But not just that, Dr. Bradley. Have the highest approval rating of any governor in the country.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That says something about someone who can. Who can work across the aisle.
The guy's heart is beautiful, and I have no argument on that one.
Right.
My point here is that he's susceptible. He could be influenced by a pressure from the Republican elite, Republican Party,
because I've gotten to know him a little better. I don't know if because he has not been aligned with the views. He is one of the few that came out and spoke out against Trump and did not vote for Donald Trump. Did not toe the line of that party and a lot of the foolishness.
Okay, and perhaps if I were in your position,
that's right,
and I would have known him, I probably would have been feeling. I probably feel differently. Fair. But I'm looking at it from. I'm just being honest about. I'm looking at it from afar, and I'm saying, okay, this is what I see. And although I like this guy, but I don't necessarily. I
don't know him.
With
you don't know him, right?
You know what I mean? But if I knew him, I might say, like I would say with you, no, that's not Larry. No, I know this person,
Dr. Bradley.
Yeah.
It takes time, right? Because when we first sat here, you were a staunch Democrat,
yes, I was.
a D beside your name, and now you're an independent.
Yes,
so your way of thinking is, which I think we all should subscribe to, is looking at the individual and not the letter beside the name. We go with autopilot, and we end up with what we have, right? We end up with because if you think about it, Massachusetts is pretty much a Democratic state. Boston, you can't get elected if you're a Republican, right? And yet, our situation doesn't fare any better under all of these D's for folks who live here, right? So is it just that the qualification for someone? We disqualify someone because of a letter beside their name. Now, if they're the extreme, no, I'm with you on that. I'm not. dealing with no McCarthy's or any of those folks like that. I mean, this country, in my opinion, is gone too far to the right with all this craziness and want to defund everything under the sun. But is what we're discussing this morning here in this hour, is that what's the report card if you had to grade the Mayor Wu in her administration for the last year, a little over a year, on education, on public safety, right, on housing, right, in mass and cast, right, on the things that she ran on improving here, right? Because I talked to a lot of people, gentrification is still real. People of color are leaving this city. We're seeing folks, I mean, in neighborhoods where you could have bought the whole street for what you're paying for a 1,000 square foot condominium, and the landscape is changing. So what grade, and do you think that all of these campaign promises are being met? 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685. Listen to At the Round Table with Ma'am Leo. So I got to ask you, Dr. Bell, I know you don't live in the city, but from looking from the outside, from what you're seeing, from the lens that you're seeing this, have you seen much improvement? I'm looking at your face. Let's dive into that.
I have not.
Have you driven down to Mass and Cass lately?
I tend not to. I have chosen not to do it.
What I see is more fencing to try to corral the problem.
But what I would argue is that oftentimes when people make promises during election season, that's all there are, because they can't begin to make the changes. In our system, where our system is designed, no one person, regardless of the authority, can make the change just by waving a wand.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. Yeah. So when you was asking for a grade, incomplete came in my head.
Incomplete, okay.
The big I came in my head. It was like, okay, this is incomplete. It's definitely a D- came into my head, because I don't see any. The machine has to begin to move and has not begun to.
So that's
move
what you
yet.
give Mass and Cass, a D-?
I give it a D-.
Okay. How about the education? I know.
I give it an incomplete.
Incomplete.
I give it an incomplete because, and the reason why I do that is because it's people like yourself who have a full understanding of the situation, and it's principles like the principle that you mentioned at the Burke,
Dr. Mack.
Yeah, who can actually come in, given the correct resources and support, can turn it around. Because the issue here is violence, and then we can start improving the quality. So if we can get rid of the violence piece by holding parents and students accountable, then we can begin to correct this thing. Because every school in the system should be like the exam school. The exam school shouldn't be an exception. It should be, every school in the system should be that way.
Right.
That's just my head.
And what about housing?
F.
Employment, because she's claimed that you're going to come in and change.
F.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we have a call on the line. Let's see what they have to say. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the Round Table.
Happy New Year, Larry and Dr. Bradley.
Happy New Year.
Michael Thomas from the People's Academy.
How you doing, bro?
All right. I thought you were saying from the People's Republic. I was like, oh, this is a long distance call.
Might as well be.
Well, T. Michael, you've heard us discussing it. I know your program is still facing impediments and obstacles as well, trying to get your building erected and something that would be a welcome and a much needed change in changing people's lives, right? On a lot of the factors that we talked about. I'm not saying it's a cure-all, but it would definitely improve a lot of people's lives, and I'll take that over no progress at all. So what would be your overall grade for the Mayor Wu's administration? Okay.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Well, let me clear my throat.
I was going to say, well, it sounds like something coming.
Well, I'll start off like this. She ran on a whole lot of things. People of color. There was even a question asked to her while she was on this program about People's Academy. I've ran into her a couple of times. I have met with her team. You're talking, I'm watching other programs getting funding to support. Here we have a $1 billion industry in the construction industry. We have a valuable, proven program that's needed whether it's union or non-union.
Mm-hmm.
I have her on film when we did the Copperman video, the documentary, on the need for a program like People's Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time I saw her, she referenced me back. Did you talk to Sagun? I didn't realize Sagun was the mayor, the commander-in-chief.
Well, to that point, I'm going to interject it because I think there's a pattern forming here with the mayor. Because the same thing, we have her on video stating that she would put the deputy superintendents back in charge of the district stations. Right now, we have no one of color running any district station in the city of Boston in a police station. And recently in the article, she's saying that she's punting that back to the police commissioner. The police commissioner did not make that commitment, right? She made the commitment as the chief executive of the city of Boston. She said this is what she was going to do. This was prior to even Commissioner Cox coming. So that concerns me when people who run on things and they make promises. And we have the video as well. Like I said, let's go to the tape. We have the video of her at the debate with her and Asabi George at the Morning Star Church. It was on a live feed as well out on Facebook. The place was packed. She committed to that, and now she's saying it's someone else's decision. I just wanted to put that out there because when you said that, I'm like, here's a pattern forming, is that we're punting to other people on promises that you made. Go ahead. Sorry, T.
Yes. Another thing I wanted to touch on that. You saw the letter I sent you that I put together.
Yes.
Too many guns, too much street violence. What we want is peace.
Mm-hmm.
Togetherness, forgiveness. Togetherness, forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
I sent you that letter that we're working to bring that as an anthem.
Mm-hmm.
But let's touch on what Joe Biden said. The shortage of construction workers, I believe over 300. You're talking in every city in every state. There's a huge build-out of construction.
Yeah.
There's such a need for construction workers, especially in the black and brown community.
Right.
There are no construction training component other than the People's Academy, especially for individuals returning home from the other side.
Well, see, that in itself, right, that it's sad to say, right, that, that this is really the only thing available for folks when they go in is to be able to get a job or go on with their life is in the construction. I'm glad that's there. But why aren't we doing things to try to prevent them or offer them opportunities like you're offering them prior to going to be incarcerated? Because as we were alluding to, is that your program, like the Madison Park, right, the vocation has been pretty much dormant, right, in that not everyone is going off to college, right? You have a valuable trade that is life changing, that people can make not just survive, but actually a real living that can change their socioeconomic status. And I mean, it's like since this broadcast, we've been on now, what, Dr. Bradley, almost 15 years, and I know you've been fighting this fight. This should be a no-brainer.
Could I say something right there, Larry? It's important. I need to add to something you said. Right now, the reason why, a couple of the reasons why they're not supporting the People's Academy to train individuals into the construction industry. Number one, it's a key to the middle class.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, racism, systemic racism, does not or will not allow black and brown people to make a sustainable living. You're talking, if you master this trade, you can make over $150 an hour. In the state of Rhode Island, there are no one, whether union or not, that are training folks into this particular part of the trade, which is, it's a historic skill set. It's needed. But the governor of Rhode Island just allocated over $250 million for vocational training. Think about that.
I asked
the little state of Rhode Island.
Yeah, Dr. Bradley has a question for you.
I asked a question. Well, I shouldn't say it's a question. I should say it's a statement, and I want to just reflect on what the president said as relates to Build Back Better. You know, the jobs that he's trying to push through with that particular piece of legislation is pointing to the skill set, pointing at people with the skill set that T. Michael is trying to, help acquire. As you know, I just recently did my kitchen. And I don't mess with water and electricity because I don't. That's out of my lane. But I call in plumbers. You can believe the amount of money they're making an hour. No college education.
Right.
I call in electricians.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe the amount of money they're making an hour. You know what I mean? I happen to have a friend of mine who's a master carpenter who came in and helped me do my kitchen and then charged me. But what he said to me, if I would do this for anyone else, it would be $35,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? So my point here is that there's money to be made. When there's money to be made in America, you better bet your last pair of pants in a snowstorm, as my father used to say, that there's racism there.
No question.
And there's racism at a point where certain people will be left out. We have been on this show for almost 15 years. This man has been asking for help for that long. Right. He was one of our first, consistent listeners to this show. And yet, people are coming in to office. They have been giving him songs and dance. But the reason why, I think, is because behind the scenes, this is where I'm going.
It's an empowerment.
That's it. Behind the scenes, there are people saying, we're not going to put ourselves out there, but you can't give the skill set to that group, that caste group, because that's a problem.
And to that point, Dr. This is not a money problem with the state, right? Because the state was so flush with cash, right? That there's a lot of that's right. I mean, they had to give it back, right?
They give it back to my wife. They give it back to me.
Well, they had to return it to the taxpayers, right? Who it belonged to. So I'm saying is you can't say sometimes, we don't have the funding. We don't have the funding. This was not a funding issue.
But I think because what he's doing makes so much sense. He's talking about the returned citizens. In my opinion, when you look at the Constitution, I'm gonna get a little bit academic here. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 talks about the president having the power to pardon, and has been the leader of the military. We have returned citizens based on our Constitution should be pardoned to a point where they can actually resume their life. Right. If you think about it, and without having been chastised or being, with this albatross around their neck that we call felon. You know what I mean? But what he's saying here is that I have a vehicle to help those individuals get back on their feet, earning a viable living, paying back into the coffer, but you won't help me. Right. And you're supposed to be the people that help me. And that's because this is, Obama said it well, this is a numbers game, folks. Behind the scene, there are people called unions who have memberships that are voting are saying, if you help this individual, we're not going to run with you. Well, that's the reality of the situation.
Other thing to that, before we go back to T. Michael, is Dr. Bradley, in your career, the numbers that T. Michael talking about, people making $150, even people making $50. How many people have you arrested that have a career? Not a job.
A career.
Right? No. If you have a career and you've worked hard at it, right? Exactly, and you feel like there's something valuable of you. Not saying some people do take a chance with it, but the vast majority of people know that those opportunities don't avail to them often. They don't go out there and squander them.
But see the thing is, but if crime is serving as a vehicle to populate the prisons, so I can get low cost labor, then I don't want those individuals to make.
But I can get them for $1 an hour rather than $150 an hour.
There you go. Okay. You know what I mean? So you have to look at the politics of it.
Right. Point taken. So T. Michael, where are you? And I know you had acquired, and it's been a minute now, even since you acquired the property at Warren and Townsend Street, right? Where are you with the People's Academy as far as funding and support from the state or local government? Here.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'll give you some information, but I cannot get into
whatever you can share. No, that's right.
Right. We've been having meetings with Department of Neighborhood Development because they've been on our back to show progress. However, like I told them yesterday, the problem, the state of emergency, like Pastor Wall and you and everyone else has been saying on the streets with the violence, the lack of opportunity, etc. It's not a T. Michael problem. Mm-hmm. It's not a People's Academy's problem, or Larry, or Mamley, or it's all of our problem, and we're trying to address that situation. If you look at the construction industry and the college, how many people, the rate for white men signing up for college it is plumbed, and the rate for white men signing up for the construction industry has risen. Now we have expanded on Morrissey Boulevard next to Shaw's, the Beasley building, the help of Councilor Baker on getting us a slot in there until the GLOW project is ready. We also took over a program that was on the seaport down on our dry dock, a boat shop with carpentry tools, equipment. Now it's in the ownership of the People's Academy. It's in the building on Marcy Boulevard. We will be hopefully expanding there, hopefully in March, so we can address a bigger capacity to train.
So I get that part of it, right? So let's call out and give a shout out to those elected officials who have helped you.
Yep.
Right? And you said Baker. City Councilor Baker, is that what you said?
Yeah, Frank Baker.
Frank Baker. Who else?
Councilor Anderson and Mejia has been heading in the right direction on supporting us.
Well, I'm not heading in the right direction. I'm talking about tangible results. Because they all give you a good speech.
Senator Nick Collins, he has been helping us as well.
Okay. Because there's a difference between help and talk. We've heard a lot of talk. That's why we're here. So our question out there for our listening audience, and you as well, how would you grade the city of Boston as the Mayor Will's administration when it comes to your issue, as well as the other issues that Dr. Bradley and I are outlining here on education, housing, public safety, right? Mass and Cass, and the list just goes on. Housing.
I'll give her a D- from my perspective.
Okay, D-. Okay, it's fair.
With the understanding that the term is not over with yet. There's still there's time for her to.
So there's room for improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got to be fair on this.
But can I say this? What's concerning of me is that you're an elected official, elected by the people. And I've never seen in my time in Boston as a kid that a person is in office and you have no access to sit and talk with them as a constituent.
Yeah, I know. And to his credit,
I'm confused.
Whether you got much out of him or not, Marty Walsh was someone I always could have a sit down with.
Absolutely.
I hear that same complaint about, you can't just, I get it, staff, and I know the mayor can't deal with everybody's problem, but I mean that human touch, and I think people don't understand that. Is it, you claim that you have this, and people are seeing.
But then why run for an office if your constituent, by law, have no access to you? And to add to a part of what you have said earlier on, let us address the linkage money. T. Michael Thomas, the People's Academy, were strategically involved in the Millennium build-out. The city gained $100 million. 28 of that $100 million will be spent in Franklin Park.
Wow.
Look at all of the cranes downtown and everywhere in Boston. Where is all that linkage money?
And then the sad part, T. Michael, is folks from Roxbury can see those cranes, but they have no opportunity of benefiting from what's going up there. That's the sad part.
On any capacity.
Exactly. We've got another call. Any closing, T? I know, like I said, if people want to help you, how can they help you with this?
They could go on peoplesacademyinc.org. But not only that, let us call out every elected official within Massachusetts and point them in the direction of Quincy and Warren. What's wrong with black and brown people learning a trade with a housing that they could take care of their family, community, and contribute to the economy?
Well, T. Michael, if you have, let me know your availability. We'd like to get you in studio and at least give you an hour. So let me know in the next couple of weeks if that works for you to get you in, and we can spend a whole hour talking about this and keep this out there. We haven't had you in studio in a while. Let's take that approach. Let us do our part to keep this out there and support what you're doing. Continue to support what you're doing on behalf of Mamleo.
Thank you.
All right.
Great show, and I will be listening.
All right. Send me that availability as well. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. You're welcome. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table with Mamleo.
Good morning. How my brothers doing? Happy New Year.
Good morning. Long time no hear. How you doing?
Yes, sir. Good to hear my brother T on the other side, you know.
How you doing,
Tim? I'm doing great, man.
Happy New Year to you. I know.
Same to you. Same to you.
So we're grading the city of Boston, the Mayor Wu's administration over the past year. If you want to weigh in, feel free. But if there's something else you want to...
well, I weigh in at the end of this. I just want to say, we keep asking folks for stuff.
Dr. Bradley's face.
And we're just asking.
I think that's the definition of insanity, but go ahead.
Yeah, because if we gather together in numbers, we've been saying this for years. Everybody's been saying this for years.
Yeah,
numbers are the powerful punch that will hurt an elected official.
Yeah. Yes.
But we keep
divide and conquer.
Dividing ourselves. Like we have a whole lot of programs out here that are being put together by our folks, but they're not sticking together because everyone wants to be the chief.
But not only that, I think a lot of them just see it as a paycheck, right? So there's no real effort to change things, right? Because here's a perfect example if you want to. Now, and I'm not saying it shouldn't have been corrected, right? But when Mayor Wu was getting problems every day at her home, officers and other people were protesting in her home, and I don't think that that's the proper venue for it. But I'm saying is that they put a plan in place. The city council passed an ordinance, right, that people could not be there during a certain time. The police department was activated. That problem was addressed because it affected the mayor. That same approach should be applied to other people, to our schools, to the other problems that we're exhibiting in the city.
Yes, and that's what we need to do. We need to, it took us, in the thing about it, it was just those handful of people that made a noise in front of her house for her to activate something to stop them from doing it.
Go ahead.
We keep talking about the education system. We keep talking about jobs. Now with the job piece, I can't say that falls on elected officials. When positions out here for our folks.
Well, if it does, but here's the thing, though, T. The mayor ran on that, and a big part of her putting Sagun in that position was to give people the appearance that this was someone who was advocating for that for quite some time outside, that we were going to see an improvement. And if it is, I haven't seen it. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't hear a lot of people that I run into talking about they've gotten contracts or whatever. What about the procurements from the city of Boston? When the Mayor Wu came in, I think they were somewhere around 1.5%. Has that increased? These are fair questions. Are we prospering from this? I'm not talking about setting up offices that sound like they're working on our behalf just to have people have jobs, but what are they doing? I've seen a lot of these things being put up. I know she shut down the street workers program, but wanted to bring them back in some form. I see a lot of checkers being moved around here, but what I don't see is the needle moving and bettering our system. And a big indicator for me, Dr. Bradley, and I know you, because you value this as well, is on the education. If our kids are not being educated, that is the pipeline to prison, in my opinion. It is not police officers arresting people for committing crimes.
It's definitely the pipeline to poverty. There's no question about that. I mean, I think the policing will end up meeting police eventually because we'll be the individuals going out to bring them to the court system. But the neutralizer, in my opinion, is the education.
Yeah.
And so we need to focus on. Obviously, there are social issues, but we need to focus on the education piece and eradicating violence from the school system.
Right.
That's the issue.
Because the irony, and I'm not saying that I know T, you still live in the community, and I'm sure you're seeing the transformation in there. And I'm looking on sites like right around the corner from you, condominiums, like I said, 1,100 square feet, $900,000, right?
Well, Boston is becoming San Francisco in that regard.
It's beat out San Francisco.
Yeah,
it's the number 2 most expensive place in the country.
But my hit here is that as people of means begin to move into the city, you're going to see these social issues from these just dissipate, and it's not because they can't do it now. Because I think in a large respect, crime and lack of education is all foreruns for gentrification. I think those are all situations that actually come before the major tsunami of gentrification. And I think that's what we're dealing with. Those are the things that are coming first. So we need to look at, how does the city, people in leadership, ensure that the individuals who are parts of the city who are not making that kind of money to actually afford, $2,300 for an apartment, how do we maintain, residencies, buildings for those individuals?
Well, we're seeing that
housing
now,
for those
and the
individuals.
lack of diversity in a lot of these city jobs, which require you to have a residency in the city of Boston. Right?
Exactly.
Well, I can't. That's why there's a lot of it. If we can't afford to live here, I can't afford to work here either. Right. So, T, again, are you seeing improvement? Where, if at all, are you seeing improvements? I'm not talking about just some people just have a job.
There's no improvement. There's no improvement in the city of Boston. We're at a still. It's a stalemate here in in every aspect of it. And you're right with these condominiums. There's a housing issue that's going on with with people who can't afford to stay here in Boston. And that's the thing that they're trying to, do is to make sure that, we're going to take care of the people with money first before we take care of the people who really need the help to be taken care of. Because there's a program out here that helps teenagers or kids in particular, with housing. Some of them are troubled teens, and are in the state's custody, and they're looking for homeowners to rent their apartments out to where they're paying almost more than Section 8 is paying, for those apartments because they're in a crisis. Right. They're looking for as many apartments as they can. So that's a housing issue. We keep talking about all these cranes and stuff that are going up. We can't afford that. I can't afford that working at Boston Water and Sewer. People definitely who working at Public Works and the Parks Department can't afford it. Now you're in contract negotiations with some of these unions. What I'm saying? Now nobody want to talk about the elected officials don't want to talk about the cost of living.
Thank you. Well, that's the thing is, Steve Michael, look at Boston now, and the police department is looking to try to have lateral transfers, right, coming over here. And people are saying, well, I don't want to go to Boston. I'm already established, so I have to take into consideration if I have children and I go to Boston, the school system is in disarray, right? So that means I got to come here and put my child in private school. And so within 6 months, I have to try to find a home that I can afford in the city of Boston, right?
Good luck with that.
Exactly. So we're seeing very little interest, I should say, in people who are already established in law enforcement professions outside of the city of Boston, saying, "What's in it for me?" Right?
Not much.
It's not that it's not as prestigious as it used to be to call yourself a Boston police officer at the expense of your family and everything else, and not being able to afford it. T. Michael, stand by. I want to bring this other caller into the conversation. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Good morning. To answer your question, Larry and Dr. Buddy, I give Michelle Wu administration a big F.
F. Whoa. Wow. Okay. Not even an incomplete.
I was a little lenient.
Incomplete. Yeah, even T. Michael is a D minus. All right. So why the F? And in which areas do you give them an F?
All of the above.
All of the above.
Okay. Well, for transportation, that's a state issue. So she has no control. She has to say on on what goes on with the T, but she has no control of how the T is being managed. So that's on the governor. Even though she was pushing for a free bus ride on the 23 and the 28, even though, let's be honest, that's not free because somebody is going to have to pay for that down the line, huh?
Exactly.
So she was lying about that.
Right. That's exactly. The taxpayers are putting. I think it's costing somewhere between $8 and $15 million a year, and a lot of times you see those buses during the day. They're empty. I don't know if that. I would rather invest that $15 million into T. Michael's program, right, where people may be riding that bus to employment. Maybe I call it
education.
Right. Call me crazy.
Yeah, some of that tax dollars come from the Department of Transportation because they put in millions of dollars as well for the T. Yeah.
Right.
Look what happened at the extension with the green line.
Right. So call it. So to T. Michael's. I mean to Terrence's. About we don't come together. What works in their favor is the division amongst ourselves, and then folks that speak out about the problems. It's not a personal attack, right? There's no support, and folks just get wore down because there's no support to deal with this. We're in the same paradigm of. Just this immobilization of moving the needle at all when it comes to improvement. Like I said, we could go back to one of our original broadcasts, Dr. Bradley, and the same issues that we're trying to get addressed now are still they've gotten worse. Yeah. But there's been very little movement, and we could listen all the folks who come on and as you said, they come on here and they talk about they've got a plan. They're the ones who are going to solve this problem. And where we at? We're right back where we started.
What we have to understand as a people is that there's a difference between.
Let me ask you a question, right? When some of the people in the Republican Party was upset and had an issue, what did they do?
How you doing?
Go ahead.
They went out and they made another party, the Tea Party.
Yeah.
They went out and made a Tea Party. Yeah. Now, we are stronger in numbers, as I keep saying. They went out and made another party. They didn't fall for, the Republicans, shenanigans. They went out and said, okay, you know what? No, this is how we want to do things.
Right. It's not working for them.
If we've been fighting for years, if we've been fighting for years for the same issues that we're talking about, and they only been fighting for within a couple of years.
Right, and look how much progress. Right?
And look at the progress they got. Then whose fault is that?
Well, that's what I'm saying, T. It's like I saw on the news there. I didn't even know they were going. Kevin Peterson and some folks that were arrested. I guess they went down to City Hall protesting, changing the name of Faneuil Hall. I have a problem with people, but I'm like on a list of priorities, changing the name of Faneuil Hall when I'm seeing that our kids don't even know who Faneuil Hall is, and they don't even understand history. And most of them read it, right? And that most of us don't even patronize Faneuil Hall. Right? What's the advantage? I get it. It's symbolic. It's like we changed Dudley to Nubian Square, right? What has been the development and the growth? And some folks would argue, well, there's been some movement down there, right? I'm not. Maybe it's pointed out to me so that I can see some tangible.
Point it out to me.
Okay.
Point it out to me.
All I see, the only businesses I see that have improved down there are more people down there selling menthol cigarettes because you can't buy them in the store anymore, right?
Exactly.
That's the only businesses I see prospering down there of people of color. I mean, so we're working in silos. And we're not getting any bang for our buck. Like I said, I love Sagoon, but he's chief. He took chief of economics, I believe. What's been the advantage for our community of him being in that position? That there's been an economic boom. We see the cranes up, but the other thing is, let's be realistic. If there wasn't an infrastructure in place, and he wants to give Dr. Bradley and Larry Ellison a contract of $100 million contract to build something for the city, right? Well, we already failed because if we haven't been able to develop like Fitzgerald and Suffolk and all of them, right? These contracts that we're able to build them to an infrastructure where they can go in and tackle that. Who's he gonna offer it to?
Well, I think just to answer, I'm going to answer that question because I think that's the key piece. I think you see that a lot throughout the city. I see a lot of cranes going up. In fact, I was telling my wife we were in Buffalo at a wedding. I saw absolutely no cranes. When I come to Boston, I see cranes all over the place, which is indication of growth. But I wonder if when they do the RFP, do they write a clause in the RFP that says you must have subcontractors of color?
But even if they do, Dr. Bradley,
They don't abide by it.
right?
And so why are they getting the job if they don't have to abide by it?
And just so folks don't think Dr. Bradley's having a voice change over.
I thought about that. I was like, oh my God.
Sister Priscilla has joined us here at the round table. Because people are like, wait a minute.
They got to go from
You know what, Brother Bobby?
Yes, sir.
You know what? One thing I haven't seen, and that I've seen, and that, that really shocked me, and it's, and I know it's going down, is I never seen a union advertise on TV that they're looking for candidates.
When I
seen that
electrician?
Yeah, the plumbers union is advertising for folks to to come aboard and join on.
But here's the thing: it just goes. So just think about, right, if there is no place to get trained, right, because you just can't go in, like Dr. Bradley said, he's a very intelligent, but he's not messing with any wiring, right? No. So if you don't have a skill set and there is no place for you to go and get trained to do that, it's an empty promise. Or you can advertise what you'll see is people coming from other places to fill that void. But when we have like the education piece, right? We live in one of the most influential educational hubs in the universe. Education should not be a problem here in Massachusetts, and particularly here in Boston, when we're a stone's throw away from where people come from all over the world.
And MIT. Yeah.
To get educated.
Exactly. In Boston College.
And we give them, in lieu of taxes, we give them tax breaks, right? But
that's what I've been saying this for years. You know what? Those are the ones who we should be taxing up, because the thing about it is, for our school system, if and I said this multiple times, even when I was running for office. If we give them tax breaks, if we consider ourselves the number one, the brainiacs of education here, and we're giving them all of Comm Ave, right, taking over Roxbury, taking over Austin, Brighton, taking over some of our cities to where our residents can't afford to stay, then why can't they take, at least 10 schools in the city of Boston and bring them up to tier 1 schools, so the knowledge
let me tell you why.
Because that could be the pop line.
Let me tell you why, and then I'll bring our other caller back into this and get there. But if we now have, and the clock is against us, right? There's an election this year for our city council. Why don't we get in a room, those of us who are not saying have to be like-minded in a sense, but care enough, and let's get a slate of candidates so we don't have this ridiculous overabundance where we're watering it down to where no one that looks like us can win, right? Because we've got too many people in there. Let's assess what we have. And why don't we get a slate of candidates? That would shake up the system, right? Because then you'll have a say. Right now we have a majority people of color on the city council. But that has not improved our situation because, in my opinion, we don't have the right people representing folks there at the city council. We have a lot of Jerry Springer moments there, but no real improvement. So if we don't start with having the right people representing us, right, and we know who they are, but those folks don't get the support because usually they're not popular with the administrations. We got to get beyond what they want for us and start doing for self. Dr. Bradley and Dick, I'm going to let you weigh in as well.
Well, I would say that, now let Dick weigh in on this one, because I'm still thinking through that statement, Larry. Okay. I'm still thinking through it.
Dick?
Yeah, when it comes to the educational piece, I agree with you, but let's be clear. America was never built for black people. So we can keep talking about education all we want to, but there's some things of history that we as black people will never know. I'm keeping it out there. I'm being agree with y'all. Mm-hmm. Number 2, when it comes to candidates, the problem with black people for so many years, including myself, until I started to be smart about what I see, is that we keep voting people who sound good. who look good,
so
who
not to
makes us think that they're going to help us, but when we put them in office, they don't do that. They just go into office, get a paycheck, and claim that they like to do what they have to do to make us feel that they do a good job.
Okay, so
even though
let me interrupt
it's always a dismal, disappointing track record.
So let me interrupt you.
And also, for the candidates of color, they don't understand or don't want to understand that it's not an easy job being a politician. Huh?
Yeah. So
you may look like you played the part, but when it comes down to it, you got to learn about budgeting. You got to learn to deal with other council that help might not like you, or deal with other situations that you as a person have to come down to cooperation, no compromise, but cooperation in making sure that you're running the city or the district that you elected to do by the people, and making sure that you're doing your job the way you ran up against for.
Right. So let me just jump in here because see the city councilors, right? You know, their salaries have increased, but the productivity has not, right? They went from somewhere around 75,000 where now they're making close to $120,000 on the next office will be. So they continue to find room to increase their salaries, but not their performance, right? And we don't hold them accountable. So like you said, just like they're voted in, they can be voted out. I heard one of them recently saying that she could, she's basically wasting her time, and the salary that she's getting in, she can well go find it elsewhere. No one is telling, just like you tell us as law enforcement people that the salaries that we get, we're asking to, well, we know what we have to live with. You know what that job pays, and if you take it, that's what it pays, right? And that, in my opinion, no city councilor, and not just because I'm in the profession, but she be making any more money than any first responder. I'm talking about police, fire, EMS. No city councilor should be making more than the first first responder for what they do.
And also, I would have to add, when the city councilors raise their pay you, as a person who's a low income person, that's a slap to my face, and it also tells me that we, the city councilors, that we don't care about you little minorities, individuals, low income people, because we could do what we want to do. So take that, because when we get elected again next year, because all 13 of them are going to get elected, sadly to say, but I see the screenplay.
Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? They're
going to keep putting we the people down to the bottom of the barrel until we start to be smart and say, you know what, enough is enough.
Yeah. Terrence, we got about a minute. Want to get your final thoughts? Sister Priscilla, you guys can definitely call back.
They have no power. So that's the one thing we have to, they have to get is power.
Yeah. But they ran off. But also, Terrence, they were allowed to run off people like Yancey and folks who actually had some institutional knowledge, right? Whether you liked them or not, they knew what they were doing down there, right? And we've lost that. The Chuck Turners, we've lost that.
We lost a whole lot of stuff. But you know what? I know y'all have a minute. I don't want to take up too much time.
No, Priscilla's coming on, so you can definitely call back. She's going to talk about the Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute and the event.
I'll be calling back.
Okay.
I'll be calling back.
All right.
Yes.
Dicka, thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Happy New Year. It's glad to hear from you back here. Dr. Bradley's over here mulling all of this. We got to get him fired up again.
Well, I'm listening to it, Larry, and I'm becoming pretty much, down and blue about it.
You come numb, right?
Yeah,
but
I just don't understand, because we're hearing this over and over and over and over again. And I'm saying, folks, these people are coming out. And they're coming to the community, and they're telling the community what they think the community wants to hear, with no intentions of exercising any type of authority to address those issues. But they don't even begin to care about it.
The only consensus they have, Dr. Bradley, is that they're worth more money, and they should be paid more for doing nothing, for doing less, right? But for Jerry Springer antics.
But how quickly do we forget? So when it's time to vote, and when you have people who are coming on this show, who are showing who have been consistent. We don't get paid to come here, but they're consistently coming and saying, "Hey, listen,
costs us to be here.
Listen, I want to be a part of this. I want to run for office. I want to put these things in place." Those people are not considered. They constantly go to those individuals.
All right, hold that thought. We're going to take our break. When we come back, we have Sister Priscilla is in the house. We're going to talk about the Marcus Anthony Hall Education Institute and their event launching tomorrow, Sunday, January 15th. We're going to take our break. We'll be right back.
Never get the chance to meet ya. No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.
I wrote 300 songs in 1 year, Boogie will tell you I'm on it. I got unreleased songs for days, they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game, it ain't a challenge. If your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward. I can see through the lies, you ain't living what you spitting. If your money's so long, while your dog's in prison.